Chapter 2282, It Seems We Were Wrong. The war upon the Earth was drawing to a close. Among the forces of resistance, nearly all of the Wulwan Empire's Epsilon-grade mutants had perished. Though hundreds of thousands of soldiers and 20 million civilians remained, they were as insignificant as insects before the combined forces of the Mechanical Legion and the Huashu Kingdom's mutant army. The battle cries shook the heavens, flames leapt skyward. Even from above, one could see fires burning everywhere and hear faint, distant wails. Jinglu now appeared emaciated, his body skeletal and eerily unsettling. To kill Zhang Yi, he had burned himself to the last spark. Yet he had only exhausted Ling's mechanical power, now he still faced Zhang Yi at full strength. His supernatural ability index, 40,000 points. Black Bishop level. Clad in the Ichigard demon god armor, wielding a biological weapon forged from the Green Knight Bowser, that boasted a supernatural ability index of 23,000 points. Zhang Yi's current combined combat power had reached at least 45,000 points. Uncle Jinglu. The Imperial Palace is under attack. The city walls have fallen. Hurry to the Emperor's aid. Your Excellency the Commander. The 5 silver armor generals of the East, West, and South gates have fallen. We can barely hold out. The relentless stream of dire reports weighed heavily upon Jinglu's heart. His battle with Zhang Yi had already drained him of all strength. Yet now, to his utter disbelief, even the home field advantage forces below were being utterly routed. The sheer impossibility of it all made Jinglu feel as if he were trapped in a nightmare. How could this happen? How did you grow so strong in such a short time? Within the deep-set eye sockets of Jinglu's skull-like head, his eyes brimmed with confusion and, more than anything, unwillingness. Zhang Yi frowned slightly. Is that so strange? Don't forget, we, the 6th generation of humanity, remain the protagonists of this era. Those words struck Jinglu's heart like a heavy hammer. The protagonists of the era. The chosen ones of destiny. Yes, that was it. It was precisely because the Wulwan Empire forgot this truth that they met their downfall. Each generation of humanity was created by the Creator, each bearing its own purpose. Except for the first generation, a failed experiment wiped out by the Great Flood, every subsequent generation gave birth to an exceptionally powerful individual in its final days. The second generation, Ian, the third generation, Drucker, the fourth generation, Arcs, the 5th generation, Yi Huang, all followed this pattern. Only the 6th generation remained feeble and weak when the apocalypse arrived. This led the people of the Wulwan Empire to look down upon them, assuming they were flawed like the first generation and destined to be erased by the Creator. But the truth seemed to be otherwise. Their evolutionary pace surpassed all expectations, a speed that would astonish every other generation of humanity. Within a mere million years, they achieved natural evolution that would have taken others hundreds of millions of years to accomplish. Even as the world stood on the brink of cataclysm, the 6th generation remained favored. The Creator's benevolence toward them had not faded. Did we misinterpret the Creator's will? Is that why we perished? Jinglu looked up at the sky, uttering this despairing exclamation. Hearing this, Zhang Yi frowned and asked, "What do you mean by that?" Jinglu gazed at Zhang Yi. Perhaps due to the intensity of his anger and despair, he now spoke with unexpected calm. If this was the will of heaven, then having defied the Creator's intent, they could blame no one but themselves for today's outcome. The 6th generation of humans were weak and insignificant. When the world's doomsday arrived, we believed the Creator intended to destroy you, to forge a new, more perfect race. That's why we emerged upon the planet's surface. By following the Creator's will, eliminating the old humans to make room for the new, we hope to earn the Creator's favor and prolong our existence. But, he paused, his voice thick with despair, it seems we were mistaken. Perhaps that global ice age wasn't the Creator's punishment. It was meant to accelerate your evolution. A strange feeling stirred within Zhang Yi. Jinglu's grasp of history was no less than his own. After all, the Wulwan clan's existence spanned an unimaginably long era. These words sparked a new thought in Zhang Yi. If the Creator didn't seek to destroy the sixth generation of humanity, but rather to evolve them, then what was the purpose? Suddenly, his thoughts began to crystallize. Evolution was meant to forge stronger beings to confront some other existence. The Drucker divine race? Were they about to awaken? Zhang Yi felt he was grasping the truth behind the apocalypse, yet it remained mere speculation. He needed more intelligence. Zhang Yi raised his demonic sword. Discussing this now is pointless, isn't it? Jinglu, our grudge should be settled today. Let me send you on your way. Jinglu suddenly let out a cold laugh. Together? Zhang Yi shook his head. No. Only you. No, only you guys. Jinglu opened his massive jaws and roared, "You're far too naive. The Wulwan Empire has endured for hundreds of millions of years. Do you think we're unprepared for invasions?" He exercised his authority, issuing a direct command to Suyi. "Emperor Suyi of the Wulwan Empire, I command you in the name of our ancestors. Activate the self-destruct system immediately. Let these damned invaders be buried with the entire Wulwan Empire." Jinglu glared at Zhang Yi, his face twisted in a maniacal grin. "Ha ha ha. Did you truly believe you would be the victor in the end? These armies must represent the full might of your nation, right? If I leave every last one of them here, then your nation will perish too." He wiped the blood from his lips, his gaze fixed on Zhang Yi with a look that seemed to drag his enemy into hell. "Kill you, and it's all over. We may have lost, but you won't be victorious either." Zhang Yi regarded him calmly. "Oh. And then?" Zhang Yi's reaction was too composed. Jinglu had expected to see Zhang Yi's face contort with madness after revealing the self-destruct system, and had been gleefully anticipating that moment. At that moment, he could seize the chance to find Zhang Yi's weakness and kill him. Yet none of his imagined scenarios unfolded. Zhang Yi's indifferent expression left him utterly disappointed. "You don't care that everyone you brought is dead?" he asked in a cold, icy tone. "Of course I care." Zhang Yi smiled brightly. "But why do you assume everything in the Wulwan Empire is still under your control?" Chapter 2283, Zhang Yi's full capabilities. Jinglu didn't grasp what Zhang Yi meant. Yet after waiting a while, the dreaded explosion he'd anticipated still hadn't come. Panic finally began to grip him. "Suyi! Suyi! What are you doing? I ordered you to detonate the entire Wulwan Empire immediately. Do you intend to defy our ancestors' will?" Yet no matter how loudly he shouted, the communication channel remained utterly silent. Zhang Yi watched him from afar. "Stop your futile efforts. I know about that so-called self-destruct system. Perhaps nearly everything within the Wulwan Empire is already within my grasp. For this battle, we simulated it over 20 billion times using human brains and supercomputers, considering every possible scenario. But unless your Wulwan Empire suddenly transforms into a mighty god-level civilization, possessing power that utterly crushes all other civilizations, you are doomed to lose this war." The demonic sword in Zhang Yi's hand twisted abruptly. Now, only the final step remains. The demonic sword sliced through the air before him. No energy fluctuations rippled out, yet the space sustaining Jinglu's body, the cords were shattered. Thud! A series of dull thuds echoed from Jinglu's body, like a sword slicing through thick, aged cowhide. Jinglu's body was lacerated with deep gashes. His vital essence had nearly evaporated, little flesh remained, leaving him little more than skin stretched over bones. Had he not possessed extraordinary vitality at this level of existence, fueled by immense power, it was hard to imagine how he could still cling to life. Dimensional string severance, an unblockable attack, impossible to defend against, only sheer strength could withstand it. But the prerequisite was maintaining a shield of powerful supernatural energy at all times, protecting every inch of his body. Jinglu clearly lacked the strength to sustain this now. He realized it was all over. "Who would have thought the Wulwan Empire would fall by my hand, Jinglu?" Jinglu burst into laughter, his voice thick with despair and bitterness. Two streams of green blood tears streamed down his cheeks. Regardless of today's outcome, the Wulwan Empire would be utterly annihilated. For even if he defeated Zhang Yi, this civilization would ultimately be unable to withstand the impending apocalyptic catastrophe. At best, only he himself might survive. With my nation and civilization gone, I seek no solitary survival. Chaos. You have earned the right to be spoken by name. Today, I, Jinglu, shall perish alongside you. Boom! An eerie green flame erupted from Jinglu's body, engulfing him entirely before blazing fiercely. Zhang Yi understood what his opponent was doing. This was the posture of one who, having lost everything, no longer desired life, burning his very existence at any cost to fight his enemy. Anger does not make you stronger. Zhang Yi showed no trace of fear, instead gripping his demonic sword tightly with both hands. The crimson energy crystal blazed fiercely, reaching its peak combat state. Clang! The realm-binding chain materialized from the void. His rules category abilities had transformed alongside Jinglu's change, the chains now glowing in eerie emerald green, utterly unsettling. Just don't let those chains bind me. Zhang Yi knew the power of the realm-binding chain. Once touched, they swiftly drained the life force from within. Moreover, they could traverse any spatial barrier to strike their target. But the Zhang Yi of today was no longer the weak being from the first Tianhai City War. Come! Dark Realm Current. Zhang Yi murmured softly as his demonic sword swung violently. Behind him, a colossal black hole surged forth, spewing energy like a dark, churning tide. The dark current coiled around Zhang Yi's arms, swirling along the sword's edge. As the sword swept out, it unfurled like a vast, dark celestial river, roaring across the heavens. Whoosh! The storm howled as the black river of dark matter, twisted by Zhang Yi's will, coiled and transformed into a winding golden river, surging toward Jinglu. Any contact would instantly trigger a terrifying antimatter annihilation effect, causing an explosion more dreadful than the Reaper of Love. Jinglu cackled maniacally, the realm-binding chain behind him unfurling densely like the enormous wings of a butterfly. Boom! His body accelerated to its absolute limit, both of his hands coalescing into a black energy orb of void destiny, which he hurled directly forward. The void destiny collided directly with the dark realm's current. The immense energies of antimatter and matter ignited a terrifying energy storm. But Jinglu had already descended into madness. Without waiting for the storm to dissipate, he tore through the hurricane with his bare hands, closing in on Zhang Yi. Ha ha ha! His laughter was chilling, as if his mind had abandoned all control over his body, making his speed even more ferocious. Zhang Yi showed no sign of panic. Though his frenzied fighting stance looked terrifying, losing one's reason was a sure path to defeat. In an instant, Zhang Yi activated all his abilities. Time Swamp, create a 3-kilometer radius of spatial deceleration. Thousandfold Space Accelerate, enhance my reaction speed. 2 Realms Junction, form a protective coating around me. The Second Hand of Time, foresee the future. This was undoubtedly the most formidable opponent Zhang Yi had ever faced in his life. Thus, he showed not the slightest carelessness, pushing his combat power to its absolute limit. Unfettered by the spatial constraints of the realm-binding chain, Zhang Yi used Space Shuffle with greater ease. He allowed the massive dark green chains to chase him like a swarm of venomous snakes, always managing to create distance at the last moment. Then came the relentless bombardment of Dark Realm Pursuit. Void Destiny. Jinglu unleashed energy attacks without regard for cost, fighting with his very life to vent the despair of his nation's destruction and his people's annihilation. But now, his body was severely depleted. Facing Zhang Yi, whose power far surpassed his own, he struggled to land effective strikes. Through repeated frenzied exchanges, Zhang Yi left him with a series of wounds, none fatal. Both dimensional string severance and 2 realms junction were unavoidable, instant cast skills. Though the injuries were shallow, for Jinglu now, the persistent damage was like water wearing away stone, gradually eroding his vitality. Conversely, striking Zhang Yi's true form proved exceedingly difficult. Zhang Yi's defenses were too numerous. Even the body of Ling he carried in his hand was a near indestructible, formidable cold weapon. The mystical weapon, the one-horned bronze spear. Zhang Yi was relieved Ling was in standby mode at this moment. Otherwise, if she found out, she'd surely beat him to death. Even the one in the ethereal realm couldn't tolerate such treatment. But now, in this life-or-death moment, there was no time for such concerns. Chapter 2284, The Origin of Night-Level Power. The battle between Zhang Yi and Jinglu was terrifying. Energy fluctuations darkened the sky and whipped up whirlwinds. Yet Zhang Yi's defenses were simply too perfect. Even with Ling's energy depleted, it remained a formidable weapon in his hands. Compared to Jinglu, whose body was drained dry while his will to live had shattered, Zhang Yi's condition was vastly superior. Jinglu launched attack after attack with desperate ferocity, yet no matter how he struck, his blows couldn't breach Zhang Yi's defenses. Time to send you on your way. Once Zhang Yi confirmed Jinglu's sole objective was to kill him, he felt completely at ease. He could be certain Jinglu wouldn't recklessly attack others or charge straight into Huashu Kingdom to strike at their homeland. In his state of utter despair, Jinglu saw Zhang Yi as the source of calamity he must eliminate before dying. This was precisely the outcome Zhang Yi had sought. Zhang Yi raised his left hand, and dimensional gates began unfolding throughout the space. Infinite Coffin. The portals rapidly assembled, forming a closed space centered on Zhang Yi, within which portals could be freely opened within a 4-kilometer radius. These portals created a sealed realm. Jinglu sensed the spatial disturbance, yet he showed no retreat. Zhang Yi's gates could not confine him. Jinglu opened his massive jaws, unleashing a plain yet potent black energy cannon directly at Zhang Yi's physical form. Zhang Yi flickered, his body vanishing into a dimensional gate, only to reappear behind Jinglu the next instant. Gate of 3,000 realms, any one activated meant Zhang Yi could instantly enter the alternate dimension and emerge through any random gate. Boom! Jinglu's attack slammed into the dimensional gate, yet the portals merely shuddered without shattering. Jinglu felt incredulous. Even gravely wounded and near death, he remained a Night-Tier mutant. Could these Black Bishop-level spatial portals truly withstand his power? This was unbelievable. Zhang Yi, however, witnessed the entire sequence. In the world beyond the gate, a pyramid barely over 10 meters tall stood on a pure white expanse. Though called a pyramid, it was merely a tower built by stacking cylindrical bronze pillars. There was no artificial bonding, just simple stacking. At most, a minimal amount of artificial equipment was present, located precisely at the pyramid's center. The material looked intensely familiar. It was precisely the same bronze pillars used to seal Mammon within the Demon's Eye. When Zhang Yi had entered the Demon's Eye, he hadn't missed a single item he could collect. And these bronze pillars, which even the abilities of bishop-level mutants couldn't shake, he had brought a portion of them out. Though scarce, he later had Liu Karen study this material. It wasn't an ideal choice for forging weapons, but rather a pure sealing material, possessing a powerful energy-absorbing function. Nearly all the energy Jinglu shot into the dimensional space was absorbed by it. That was why Zhang Yi dared to recklessly open Gate of 3,000 Realms right before him. Come on, fight to your heart's content. Zhang Yi swung his demonic sword, unleashing terrifying dark matter energy that surged forth from the void behind him like a viscous, inky tide. The dark realm's currents churned, transforming dark matter into a torrent that threatened to devour everything in its path. Jinglu counterattacked relentlessly, simultaneously attempting to strike Zhang Yi with his realm-binding chain. Yet all was futile. It's time to end this. As the Golden Pyramid absorbed sufficient power, Zhang Yi abruptly closed all dimensional gates. Snap! Snap! The joints of the demon god armor abruptly sealed shut, encasing Zhang Yi's form within an iron cage. This was not a seal, but a form of complete protection. I'll let you taste the flavor of being killed by your own power. Zhang Yi raised his right hand, and a dark sphere suddenly materialized. It contained boundless destructive power, dark, chaotic forces intertwined as one. Every ounce of energy unleashed during the battle, including Zhang Yi's own and Jing Lu's, had been gathered by the pyramid into a single focal point. In this moment, Zhang Yi condensed all that power, unleashing his most devastating strike. "Let me deliver your final blow, Jing Lu. This is the price for your arrogance and the cruelty inflicted upon the hundreds of millions of people of the Huashu Kingdom. The sin of blasphemy." This was the second time Zhang Yi unleashed this ability during the battle. The backlash from the ability was overwhelmingly powerful, but fortunately, the first time it struck, it wasn't him who bore the brunt of the damage, it was Ling's human form. Therefore, he was able to unleash the ability a second time. This wasn't the first time Jing Lu had been attacked by this ability, yet the sensation, so scorching it felt as if his very body would be burned to ashes, was even more intense than the first time. For he was now spent, utterly drained of strength, unable to withstand this force's onslaught. Jing Lu stared directly at the pitch-black sun in the sky. Its terrifying energy radiated indiscriminately, spreading out in every direction. No angle, no position offered escape. The war god of the Wulwan Empire, Grand Marshal of the three armies, Jing Lu, fallen in battle. Only after personally confirming the absence of life signs did Zhang Yi exhale a long, heavy breath. Even with every detail meticulously calculated, this battle still demanded his utmost caution. Jing Lu's vitality and strength proved slightly greater than he had anticipated. Fortunately, it hadn't exceeded his projected limits. Though arduous, this battle had been secured without incident. In the sky, all traces dissipated, leaving only a potent, intensely luminous origin suspended mid-air, so overwhelming it was impossible to look away. Only the eyes of the mutant could perceive this energy, born of the ether, the very force that shaped the entire physical world. A blazing light flared in Zhang Yi's eyes. Ability Index, 52,000 points. A Night Tier Origin Power. If he obtained it and fully absorbed it, he wouldn't need much time to ascend to Night rank himself. At that point, he would become an unrivaled force in the human world. Even encountering lesser underground civilizations, he could crush them effortlessly. Zhang Yi swiftly activated his Space Shuffle ability, ready to seize that primordial force into his grasp. But at that very moment, an unexpected change occurred. The human form of Ling, drained of energy in his hand, suddenly opened her eyes. Without warning, she moved. Before Zhang Yi could react, she leaped directly into the immense mass of mutant origin.